What's up, Gear Mortals? Trey Xavier here. On today's edition of Gear God's Quality Control, I'm going to be bringing in a couple of friends of mine, Mazen and Miami, who are collectively known as We Make Noise. They're going to be taking a look at the Neural DSP Darkglass plugin. They do a lot of the mixes that you hear here on the channel for some of my review songs, so take it away, boys.
What's up, Gear Mortals? Miami and Mazen here. As some of you know, we take care of a decent amount of the Gear demo mixes here on the Gear Gods channel. Today, we'll be going over Neural DSP's Darkglass plugin to see if it holds up against the hardware. We'll be demonstrating this with a couple of songs from the Shadow of Intent album, Reclaimer, with Chris Wiseman on bass.
All the examples you hear in this video have no additional processing. All you're hearing is just the bass into Darkglass plugin or this pedal. Let's check some of the features of this plugin. One of the coolest ones is you have two models of this pedal. You have the Vintage Ultra and the B7K Ultra. We're not gonna take a look at the Vintage today. Another cool feature is the presets, which you have pretty well-known mixers that you can get out starting points just to go through your songs or your pre-pro or whatever your case is. For this song, we didn't use any of them. We actually made our own because that just worked fine for it. One other feature is the oversampling button here. I noticed if you use it on high and you don't have a really good computer, it might kill your CPU usage. So just be aware of this switch right here. Another one which you might never use on a bass, but there's the stereo and mono switch here, which you can use for stereo bass if you have a stereo bass, or you can just be creative and use it on a drum bass, on a synthesizer, or vocals, or whatever you like.
We actually kind of had a goal going into this that we didn't want to use any other plugins except for the Darkglass one. So let's take a listen and see how we actually accomplished that. The first thing that we noticed is the blend knob plays a really crucial part in getting your tone here, because you can go from a hardcore, gritty SansAmp kind of sound to a more Ampeg overdriven sound as you mess with the blend. We preferred it all the way up. The switches that they have are extremely versatile. One of the most important, I would say, would be the high-mid switch, because it attacks most of the important frequencies on a bass when you're trying to find grit, which is around 750 hertz, 3K, and 1.5 kilohertz. The next thing that we noticed was the attack switch. It was really important when we were trying to define the transients to sit in the mix. This actually sounded good with the transients pretty sharp and hard-hitting.
It also really helps with with your low end and how tight it is?
The low mids, it was kind of hard to find a setting that we really liked, and I think that was just because we weren't doing any additional processing. If we were going to use something else to kind of keep a consistent low end, I probably would have just went with the 250 hertz option. But it gives you the option of going to 500 hertz, which to me gets a little cloudy. Also 1 kilohertz, which actually goes well with the high mids mode. And now to talk about my favorite of them, the grunt switch. It can really change from a high and throaty kind of grit to something more mellow that you would be used to in a more prog song. For this, I really wanted the grit to be shining through. The bass knob's actually really sensitive on this, if you'll notice. As you go through, I want to say at around 3 o'clock to 4 o'clock, you can pay attention and see just how intense it gets. Like, seriously intense. The low mids knob, that one wasn't as intense to me, but it played a very crucial part with the low mid switch. You really had to get those two to work with each other. High mids, on the other hand, whenever you're looking for that clank sound, you're definitely gonna want your high mids up, and this was working well around 2 o'clock. As you turn up the high mids, it starts getting a little too throaty, I wanna say in the 3K area, and it just wasn't fitting right with what we were working with. And the treble knob, well, after everything else is dialed in, I think the treble knob is where I end up at. And in this example, ended up around 2 o'clock. That seemed to give it just the right amount of grit without being too overbearing. And it fit right into the mix without needing anything else. The level switch is specifically used to control the amount of drive that's going to the signal. And the master knob is just that, a master knob. It's controlling the amount of output going out of the plugin. So we spent some time with the pedal and with the plugin, dialed it in, messed with a few songs. What were your thoughts in the end?
Actually, for $100, I really do like it. It can definitely stand against the pedal, especially that it comes with 2 models and a simulated cab that you can just move the mic wherever you want, get different tones, more options, and pretty accessible on your laptop. I definitely like it. What do you think? Do you think it stands against this guy?
I'm gonna say yes, in a couple of ways. I noticed when we were using it on the Forsaken Effigy, I actually liked it more. I thought that the grit tone that it had was a little better than the hardware. But they still sounded very similar, you know? I'd say they sound just as close as any two of the same amplifier if you tested them one against each other. You know, there's always gonna be small variances, but it definitely held up. I noticed that it sounded better on slower songs. The faster songs, it seemed like the hardware was doing a better job.
It was controlling more low ends.
Yeah, it was definitely controlling the low end more. But I was honestly blown away because I was never a big fan of Darkglass. So after using it and dialing everything in, it was pretty surprising. So
Pretty dope.
one really big feature, and this is a pretty obvious one, but with the plugin you can recall at any time. You don't have to worry about powering it in any way.
Taking pictures.
Yeah, you don't have to take a picture to remember the recall settings from an album. You can drag and drop it in and it sounds absolutely great. If I had to pick one or the other for my uses, being mostly in the studio, I would definitely go with the plugin over the hardware. And I want to give a big shout out to Chris. He and I go way back, used to play in bands together. And a big shout out to Shadow of Intent for letting us use this track. It was a pleasure. And I'm really excited about using Darkglass in the future.
All right, guys, thanks for watching. Feel free to check us out at wemakenoise.net.
Thanks so much for watching, guys. If you haven't already, mash that subscribe button for more reviews and original content, and also check the link in the description for Plugin Alley, the best deals on plugins you'll ever find. And don't forget to check out We Make Noise, and I'll see you real soon.